Today's Cowboys Report is made possible by Roan. If you haven't already, get 20% off over at roan.com/chatsports. When you use code chatsports for polos like this and much more for your closet. Might be a long one today, but as promised, we are explaining how the Cowboys currently sit with the salary cap, the differences, cash and cap, the spending stuff. It's a pretty complicated topic. So if you have friends that have questions, share this video. Helps explain as best as I possibly can what's going on and calling out some of the Cowboys' lies about it. Now, speaking of, as you guys share today's video, the Cowboys claim they spend like everybody else does. And they've repeatedly leaked to different media outlets, their own, DMN, etc. Hey, we're in trouble with dead money in 2025. So I want to break down what's really going on and why if the Cowboys want to, they're actually not in a bad salary cap space at all. They just have to actually make some decisions here. Before we get into all of that, the number one thing I want to break down is the difference between cash and cap. I think that's the number one thing that's kind of become, for lack of a better word, the meta of the NFL. Now, Stephen Jones said this earlier this offseason. Quote, "We spend max money year in and year out. All 32 can only spend the same amount of money over a 5-year stretch. When we're all said and done, we max out our salary cap every year." First up, whatever 5-year thing Stephen Jones is talking about does not exist. There is no 5-year maximum spending requirement that NFL teams must adhere to. Not a thing. Now, what I think Stephen Jones was trying to refer to was the proration of signing bonuses, where if you give a guy a $50 million signing bonus, each of up to 5 years of the contract, it counts $10 million. So I think that's what he meant. Whether it was ignorance or incompetence, it doesn't really matter. It's just not true, though. In reality, the Cowboys do not spend max money of their salary cap because they do not maximize their cash spending in the process. Here's maybe the simplest way to describe it from Andrew Brandt, who used to work for the Packers front office and was a cap guru early on in the NFL. Cash is what a player will actually receive in a contract. Cap is a mechanism of compliance, a way NFL teams account for a contract over the life of a deal. Cash matters a lot more than cap. In fact, with the present day NFL, the way the aggressive teams are spending their money to win games now, the salary cap can actually be weaponized as a method to spend more cash than what other teams are doing and thus increase the talent of your roster if you're spending the money properly, right? So before we get into that angle, I want you guys to rate the Cowboys front office when it comes to handling contracts, the money, the salary cap. They do a good job of some stuff. Not so sure on this front. Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comments, actually the pinned comment of today's video. Now, this data is courtesy of the NFLPA. I don't think it includes stuff like dead money, so you'll see other numbers from other places, which it just depends on what money they're counting. But active cash spending, like actual cash being spent over a 3-year period. The Cleveland Browns lead the NFL at $757.5 million. The Jets and Ravens are above 700. The Broncos and Indy are not that far behind. The bottom 5 actual cash spenders, why I don't think this counts some of the dead money stuff, and some restructuring is included, but not like dead money restructuring necessarily. The Cowboys are bottom 3. Behind the Falcons, Bears, Packers, Saints. Saints are their own special outlier. Just ignore them. They don't count. They're a weird team with their money. They're extreme levels. Maybe you actually don't feel like the Saints, by the way. Packers, Falcons had weird quarterback contract stuff they had to deal with when Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers demanded a trade, whatever. The Bears were rebuilding. Cowboys are a contender. Been a playoff team every single one of those seasons. The league average is $627.4 million in cash spending per the NFLPA. You're $120 million in that 3-year time frame behind the Eagles. From 2016 to 2019, per CBS Sports, Cowboys were dead last in the NFL. Now, you can use different numbers you see fit. I want to use NFLPAs because it's consistent across the board. I think the consistency really matters there. However you slice it, they don't spend money very much. Why is that? We'll break that down after a word from our sponsor, Roan. Roan has changed the game when it comes to the mail closet. It was in need of an overhaul and upgrade, kind of like maybe the way the Cowboys want to actually spend their cash. Rowan's got products for every occasion. I'm talking about the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos, and blazers. They look great as individual pieces and also work seamlessly together. Their signature 4-way stretch fabric is breathable, flexible, and works everywhere from your commute to work, the 19th hole to drinks, to the actual tee box, whatever. Rowan has you covered. Gold Fusion anti-odor technology allows for more wears between washes, and the wrinkle release technology helps make it 100% machine washable. The Commuter Collection gets you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to rowan.com/chatsports and use promo code chatsports. Save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you go to RHONE.com/chatsports and use code chatsports. Find your corner office comfort today with Rowan. So the big question, how does a team that objectively does not spend the same way other teams do end up in what they are calling such a bad position in 2025 because of the dead money and all that salary caps? How are they in a bad spot? Well, the reason is this Cowboys team is afraid of dead money. And they've said it before, they don't like paying people to not be working for them. It's a big reason why Garrett got the final year of his deal. Well, Mike's getting the final year of his deal. They don't like dead money, even though inherently dead money actually isn't a bad thing. The Cowboys have $65 million in cap space in 2025. And that already accounts for what could be up to $70 million in dead money from a variety of notable players not under contract. Of note, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Tank Lawrence, Zach Martin, all guys not under contract. Here's the dead money breakdown. The reason why it's so large is almost solely because of Dak Prescott. To be quite honest, it's the only reason why it's so high. Tank at $7 million is not a big deal. Cooks at $4 million. Of note, Zach Martin, they've already kind of baked in a potential retirement into his contract where it's $10 million next year, $17 in 2026, unless he wants to play again, in which case they'll adjust the contract, and that dead money goes away too. Dead money, the way this works, is no different than a player being cut. All the leftover money that was owed that hasn't been actually accounted for on the salary cap but has been paid to the player, accelerated into that year, which you're okay with doing if you consistently do it year over year. In fact, there are already 7 teams paying over $50 million in dead cap this year. That number's probably going to rise as various players get cut who are owed signing bonus stuff that don't quite make the roster. Could approach 10. It includes teams like the Eagles and Bucks who are already on the hook next year for $40+ million in dead money. The Cowboys right now are at just $20 million in dead cap. That's bottom 10 in the NFL. It's not really that bad. And it's also worth mentioning, yeah, your dead money's high next year. You aren't paying anybody. This Cowboys team historically tends to flirt with the minimum level of spending that they have to do. There are minimum spending requirements. The Cowboys historically are always flirting with that bottom figure. They're always like, they got to sign this guy and then they'll be fine. But they always have to do that to make it happen. And they're paying nobody right now. It's Terrence Steele, Trayvon Diggs, who both can be cut. In fact, next year, there are 5 players who you can't cut because of the way their contracts are set up. Every single one of them is on a rookie deal. You have actually made 0 noteworthy commitments beyond this season. And I think, by the way, as we'll get to near the end of today's video, that desperation for flexibility has actually made them a little bit too rigid in the whole salary cap conversation. Now, that $40 million for Dak Prescott, I got an argument with this over social media with other smart people. It's tricky to read if you're not fully into it with how it's laid out on Spotrac and over the cap. The reality is, it's not $40 million and 26 next year. It's not what the number is. It might look like that. It's not true. It's 26 in 2025, 12, 1-1, then all gets pushed up into 2025 if he's not under contract. Otherwise, it stays just like that. He's under contract. It doesn't have to get prorated and pushed forward. It stays pushed out. So what you could do is give Dak everything he wants. Let's say he gets that $60 million per year contract. Maybe you're a little bit worried about how the money's going to look if you don't have a bunch of extra void money tacked on. This is what you could make the contract look like. $46 million in 2024, that brings that number down several million. 51 in 2025, all of a sudden, I've extended Dak Prescott, and for the next 2 years, I'm basically paying him the same amount of money that I would owe him right now. Not a real change. Now it jumps to 65 in 2026 and 74, 79. You go, oh my God, that's so much money. And it is. But guys, that salary cap is skyrocketing, which we'll get to here in a second. Now, the next 3 years, roughly speaking, if you do that kind of quick math, you don't have to make it the exact same numbers, but it adds up to the money that was owed in the new contract. You can play around with it more and add an extra void year and take down $10 million per year the last 2 years if you want to. But don't have to. Maybe with Dak, this is probably going to be his final big contract. Maybe you don't want to put massive void money in there. I get that. If you pay him, he would rank 6th, 6th, and 4th in cap hit rankings on his new deal, which might change because other guys are going to get paid. Look, we're not that far away. Josh Allen's due for a new deal, by the way, not too distant future. The Mahomes deal's so weird. We're really not far away from $75 million per year at the quarterback position. We're not. That's how this is going because, as I'll break down, the massive skyrocketing salary cap situation across the NFL. So do you want to pay Dak Prescott? Extend him. P for pay, W for let walk. Let me know in the comments. I led with Dak because that's the more controversial one. And there will be people who tell you, you can't pay 50% of the salary cap to 3 players. Good, you're not. Literally no one is actually arguing for that. It's a straw man argument because you're not actually paying that on the cap. That's what the cash is, not what the cap is. Back to point 1, right? Here's how the CeeDee Lamb contract looks if you don't extend him. Now, the tag numbers are estimates. It might go up a little bit. The tag 2, 120% of tag 1. You owe him $18 million-ish this year, 25-ish next year, nearly 30 in 2026. Now, what you can do is take the Justin Jefferson contract. That was 4 years, $140 million. We can drop that number down a little bit for CeeDee Lamb, the one I proposed earlier, 4 years, $33 million for Lamb. And you can take very similar contract structure for Justin Jefferson and apply it out with some minor differences with what CeeDee was owed this year. It's a little bit more and less per year. Here's how this looks. It's 8.5 in 2024, 15.3 in 2025, 35 in 2026, 41, 45. There's already a void year tacked onto Justin Jefferson's contract. So what I have done here is over the next 3 years of that contract, I have saved millions of dollars, and I can restructure after year 1 or year 2 and save even more because I can restructure and push money off in the future, which again we'll come back to more in depth in the benefits of doing that. Folks, the salary cap goes up, and it is going up at an extremely aggressive rate, which is a great thing for everybody. It means more money for ownership to spend, better players on your team. Look at what the salary cap has done in the last 6 years. Now, there was the down year in 2021 due to the COVID revenue loss. Since then, the salary cap has gone up at nearly $20 million per year. It was over 20 from 2021 to 2022. It was just under 20, and then it jumped $30 million in 2024. So Spotrax kind of laid out some cautious, maybe 6 out of 10 on the aggressive scale of the cap projections. Now, this is a projection, so it could change. Yeah, somebody take a lawsuit might negatively impact you. We're also going to go to an 18-game schedule. You're going to have new TV deals hit you. I think it's a decent estimation. We're talking $300 million in 2 years. We're talking $350 in 2029. So yes, those quarterback numbers are massive. They're huge. So is the salary cap. It is a reasonable assumption. In fact, it's the only assumption to see that the salary cap is going to go up. So why wouldn't you maximize the current dollar that you have? We'll break that down here more in depth. We're not done. I told you it was going to be a long one. Hopefully this is helping you. And if it's not, I'll take the blame for that, for not explaining it properly. We have daily Cowboys videos for you. So hit that sub button right now. To the exact same exercise with Micah Parsons, right? He's got 2 years left at about $27 million on the cap. Most of that coming in the final year of his deal. Let's pretend, again, the high end of the contract. He gets $5,200. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he does. We'll take the Nick Bosa contract, apply it out equally, boost the numbers for what it was. It's $5 million in 2024, so no real change this year. $14 million next year, 20.6 in 2026, 28. Then a big jump in 2028. The Bosa deal is basically set up to be restructured here. And then it's got the void years and either restructure or eat the big cap hit and move on. Because you pay him early, you can move on later. Benefits you to pay early. That is significantly lower than what Micah Parsons is currently set to make. The first 2 years are set in stone. The fifth-year option in 2025, the current contract. I'm guessing on the salary or the franchise tag here for 2026, 2027, I could be a few $1 million under. Just depends on what that figure actually checks in at. Does Myles Garrett get paid before then? Very possible. But we're talking by paying a player early, it's a $20 million difference with the cash you're able to spend against your salary cap. That's a big deal. And that is kind of what brings us to point number 4. Too much flexibility actually makes you rigid. The Cowboys are not in a great salary cap spot for 2025, but only if they don't pay anybody. If you pay some combination of Lamb, Prescott, and or Micah Parsons, it actually creates more short-term flexibility that allows you to upgrade your roster and not be limited about what the cap hits are. If you have core pieces, you should pay them sooner than later. It saves you actual cash in the short term and long term because you're getting it done earlier than as the cap and cash rise as more players get paid. And it gives you more spending power. There are spending minimums this Cowboys team often flirts with. And I can always push money into the future. We're talking about paying Lamb and Micah and saving money over 3 years. As that money comes in, you're then paying guys like Tyler Smith and pushing their money off into the future. In fact, you should almost, not in all cases. Sometimes as they get older, you don't want to do it. But you should almost always restructure your core pieces because it allows you to spend money. If you want to maximize your dollar from a cash perspective, you should actually treat the salary cap as a loan sometimes. If your income is a lock to go up by 10 to 15 to 20% per year, and that's not quite that much for the NFL, but it's easier numbers to do the math with there, the value of the dollar you currently have is more than what's going to be next year. It's not the same as paying your mortgage or paying your bills. You shouldn't spend more than you got. You don't know you're going to make more money next year. The NFL does. So if someone offers you as an NFL team an interest-free loan, hey, we'll give you $20 right now when you've got $200 in the bank, take the 20, pay us it back next year when you've got $500 in the bank. Why wouldn't you do that? It's crazy not to actually. There's the old adage. I forget the guy's name, Wimpy, whatever it is. I'll gladly pay you for a hamburger I'll pay on Tuesday for a hamburger today. Except you actually are getting 2 hamburgers on Tuesday. You're getting a free one right now, and you know you have 2 coming. You just can't get to it right now. So why wouldn't you take the hamburger? Why would you rather pay for the burger now? No, just take the free one, pay it back later, because you know you're going to have one. The Cowboys do this some of the time. They've done it with other contracts. You saw it with Zach Martin, with Tank Lawrence. You're fine doing it with Zach Martin because you're going to pay CeeDee Lamb and bring down his cap hit and save money to pay the extra mortgage on Zach Martin. It's actually fine to do it that way. It's the right way to do it. But they don't do it as nearly as much as they can. And you don't have to be at the extreme end of it. But the Cowboys are the richest franchise in the NFL. They don't spend like they are. They spend like they're moneyballing everything. Doesn't make any sense to me. They can be so much more aggressive. Yeah, you got the dead money from Zach Martin. So pay for it by paying CeeDee Lamb. And then your cap doesn't actually change, but your cash spending has. I'm not done, by the way. So I know I told you it was a long one. Bosses might not like it, so make sure you've shared it. Do you trust the Cowboys front office? Y for yes, N for no. Finally, there's this. A lot of these issues the Cowboys are facing are self-inflicted. How do the big contracts go for the Cowboys? They don't want to pay the market rate, right? They have said, we don't believe we have to pay the market rate. We're better than that. We're too good for it. As a result, they lowball players and agents. Did it with Tank. Did it with Dak. Did it with Lamb. This pisses off the agents. They don't like it. And it makes the talks harder. And the agents also know eventually they're going to cave and pay more. The Cowboys' reputation is you just have to wait them out. They're going to cave. They'll cave in August or September and give you what you want. Instead of, if they were more proactive, they could have saved some money in the process. And what ends up happening is, well, now they've spent more cash than they could have done previously, and now they're going to self-impose, limit their own salary cap space. It's not great. You want to take less, the Cowboys will pay you. If you want to take what you're worth, they're going to make you work for it, or at least wait for it. And that costs the Cowboys in the end. One more analogy before we go on what was way too long of a video. Stephen Jones worries about the salary cap pie. But in reality, he has the ingredients to simply make more pie. And he's going to the store tomorrow. But for whatever reason, he doesn't want to make it because he wants the extra stuff in case there's a hurricane and you can't go to the store. Doesn't make any sense to me. The Cowboys can spend more cash than their cap space allows. And if they just pay Lamb and others, all of a sudden their money issues next year go away.